Hey, what's up, Los Angeles? What's up, Ramley? Welcome to the Rams Skinny here on the LAFB network. We are Los Angeles Sports, and we are talking all things Rams. It's definitely been a good weekend for the Rams. I think a good day today, too. Trade just happened, which we'll get to. But Matthew Stafford remains a Ram, as he should. There's that scene in Draft Day, one of the greatest sports movies of all time, when leading up to the draft, all the pundits, all the radio shows are talking about go get Bo. They just got the number one pick. And then I remember at the very end of the movie when they trade back and they get Vontae Mack, or they don't trade back, they get Vontae Mack and they trade back into the first and get the running back. And then all the radio guys are like, and Brian Drew remains the rightful quarterback, as he should be, the Cleveland Browns, like they call it all the time. So we're doing that right now, as he should be. Matthew Stafford back. We'll talk that. We'll talk some other pending or even just potential free agents that McVay talked about being back with the Rams. And then, as I said, the trade, Jonah Jackson traded to the Bears. We'll get into all that as free agency frenzy is just 1 week away. First and foremost, my man Skinny T, looking fresh, looking good. Saw you over the weekend. Pleasure as always. How are you doing, my man?
I'm doing great. You and your wife and your young daughter joined us for some pork that I cooked up. It was a great night. Did you like playing Phase 10?
It was great. Yeah. Phase 10 was great. It was I wanted to finish it, but it's definitely a game you need quite a bit of time to get through it. We were going on like 2 hours and we were like only halfway through the phases.
Really? We were playing? Wow. Okay. Well, that was time flies when you're having fun. But yeah, there's alterations you could make to that game, make it go faster. But yeah, I'm doing really well. I love this time of year when things start to take shape, things start happening. The rumor mill kind of shuts down in a way, where it's things just happen, and team building, which is one of the more fascinating and interesting things about this sport, particularly. Fitting all these guys together, the 52-man roster, the draft picks, the free agents. It's just, it's so compelling. I just don't understand how anybody could not love American football, NFL. It's great.
What a sport. What a sport. Because every other really just league, obviously everyone has the free agency and the draft, but you're not dealing, like you said, with a 53-man roster. Basketball is 12 spots. 5 starters, like essentially 6 impact players. Hockey's the closest with 20 skaters and 2 goalies. So there's a little bit more in that, but that's still half. Baseball, obviously, you have the 40-man roster, but how many of those are impact players? They all have it to an extent, but football is there's just so much more to it because, you have 22 starters, but player 53 can play an impact. And we see that all the time. Practice squad guys get called up and make an impact. Again, not saying it doesn't happen in other sports, but it's so much more brevity in the NFL. It makes this time of year so fun. And obviously I love the actual football season and covering the season, but the offseason is so much fun because there's just so much unknown. And it's crazy to think that here we are sitting on Tuesday, that less than a week, Monday, March 10th, the tampering period begins, essentially meaning free agency begins, because that's when all the deals get announced, even though they don't become official till the 12th. So Skinny T and I are going to be like zombies all week around the horn because we know the Rams will be active and everything as they always are. So all week, keep it right here, LAFB. We'll maybe Skinny will even do little like video updates daily instead of just our usual 2 days a week Rams Skinny. We'll do some video updates, but then obviously everything on LAFB Network we're going to have 15 to 25 articles a day going up there. So we'll probably have a free agency tracker. I think we did that last year, so we'll try to get that going this year. So make sure, everyone, you're tuning in right here on Rams LAFB, and please head over to LAFB Network for all that extra bonus coverage there. Show, as always, brought to you by our friends at BetOnline. Head to betonline.ag today. All the best money lines, games, spreads, point totals, sports, aplenty, all the superlatives to describe a great wagering website. It's all BetOnline, easy to use. They actually just updated their website now that are including single game parlays. That was like one of the things that with these other sites that weren't DraftKings and FanDuel that kind of lacked. They didn't have that easy same game parlay setup. BetOnline is now updating their software and has that. So head to betonline.ag today, where the game starts. Tell them the guys at the LAFB Network sent you. All right, Skinny, let's start with Stafford. We've spent like a month talking Stafford, so I promise all you guys listening, we are not going to talk very long on that. We actually had another episode that was set to drop at the end of last week. We recorded it. It was basically talking as if Stafford was gone and what options the Rams would move forward with. And I had it uploaded to YouTube. I was literally just in the process of creating the thumbnail, and then it broke that Stafford was back. Great, which we're happy about. I'd much rather him be back than our episode, but our episode was moot at that point. So trashed that, deleted it, wasted time, but happy to do so because as everyone wanted it, as it should be, Matthew Stafford is back. So let me just ask your reaction, Skinny. Like we both kind of, as of, when did this actually go down? Was it Saturday that it happened? I believe.
Sunday,
sometime over the weekend. So as of Thursday or Friday when we recorded, like it felt pretty strong that he was gone. It was feeling that, not just by me and you, like that was like everyone, even like the Rams faithful, but obviously all the national reporters, it was feeling like, man, the deal's on the table with either the Raiders or the Giants. If they can put up a trade package, the Rams don't want to budge. It's happening. And then in the 11th hour, it happened. So what was just your reaction to all of a sudden, hey, everything's good, bygones be bygone, nothing ever happened, Rams and Stafford moving forward?
Yeah, it was the most logical thing for both parties. That was always the strange thing. People were arguing the logic of the situation, but it was an illogical It was illogical at its end, right? Because it's like Stafford wanted to test the market. The Rams need to figure out a plan for the future. These are the illogical things that were happening. But when it came down to it, it's 2025. They got a roster built. They've kind of got their foot in and out of one era into another era. Mm-hmm. So it's what needed to happen. It was the thing that was made the most sense, and cooler heads prevailed. And how that cooler heads prevailed was that he settled for less money. Mm-hmm. It sounds like they're not making any long-term commitment to him other than already what's on paper. So that's the sign that it was like a true negotiation where they met in the middle. Nobody had to overextend. Everybody got a little bit of what they wanted.
Yeah. Based on the reporting as of right now, Tuesday at 1:30. So if this breaks before I publish this, the contract details have not totally been disclosed, but essentially what we've heard is it was a renegotiation of his current deal. So no added years. He had 1 year left, and basically added more guaranteed money to that current year left remaining. And basically next year they'll go through the song and dance again. And McVay said again afterwards, like we want Stafford here as long as he wants to play here, but it sounds like it'll be a year-to-year contract situation, which I don't necessarily love in terms of just kind of the from where we stand, but obviously for the Rams, that's what they wanted. They wanted it to be a year-to-year thing. Obviously with Stafford's age and just the way contracts work, the salary cap, the way the market gets reset every single year. So I think it worked out for him. We were, maybe people could disagree, but we were maybe a little overly critical, or at least I was, of like, why would you chase the money when what you have here? And I'm not saying he listened to me or heard me, but I think obviously he felt that same way because he took less money to stay here, knowing this was the best shot to win a Super Bowl. Families here, they love LA, they love the organization and them get along great. Him and McVay are great friends. And like we've said a bunch, like he'll make that up in endorsements deals in LA. So the money was never the thing. It was more the feeling of, I think, wantedness or the pride of the market value. And so when we see the actual figure, I'm sure it'll be probably close to 50 when it's said and done.
Yeah, the only thing I am curious about is the cap number. And from what I've heard about that is it's not going to go up, which is good, but probably also not going to come down.
Yeah.
But they're doing some other moves that are freeing up a whole bunch of cap space. So they're going to be in a really good spot. I feel like, with their offseason, kind of template, what they're working with in terms of draft picks, capital going into free agency, all that good stuff. Yeah. The year-to-year thing, McVay said, we're going to be going through this again next year. He said the first negotiation took 7 months. This one took 3 weeks. So hopefully the next one, the 2026 version of this, is going to take a few days. But just prepare yourselves, folks. Stafford comes across as a real down to earth guy, but behind the curtain, when he's got a little bit of a diva to him. So we'll see what divaness expresses itself in 2026.
He's a quarterback. They all are.
Yeah, that's a great point. One of the funny things we like to say that the Rams don't really have a poker face. And in Sean McVay's press conference, he kind of played the two sides of the same coin. He said he's sleeping a whole lot better now, but he was never worried that Stafford was going to leave. I love that.
Yeah, just hitting both sides. But it's so fitting. The Rams they're truly the Hollywood team of the NFL. So it's fitting they obviously play in Hollywood, but they really are. Like, when you think of storylines, there's really none better than the Rams every year with their blockbuster trades, their draft strategy, the way they do personnel, their coaching carousel they have to go through all through the staffing, and obviously now this with Stafford. So, but great news. He's back. Everyone can be happy. Rest well the rest of the offseason, at least at quarterback. Got to still get a backup. Jimmy Garoppolo is a free agent. There's talk that they want him back. I know there was rumors that they were okay just re-signing him as the starter if Stafford left. I don't know if that was more of a rumor mill to kind of push the Hollywood narrative or not, but they do want him back in a backup role. If not, they could maybe sign some other veteran or Stetson Bennett still on the roster. And last thing I'll say, and we'll talk about this more after free agency, is I don't think this still means, in my opinion, the Rams should draft a quarterback. Not necessarily saying with their first round pick, but at some point, I think it would be absolutely wise to take a flyer on a quarterback at some point. So that's something we can discuss later on. But let's talk the big news today, and we can get into some other tidbits. But Jonah Jackson, during all of this Stafford talk, was put on the trade block. And very quickly, the Rams were able to. I mean, it's crazy how this news happened. And we didn't even mention this. Stafford renegotiates, he stays. A few hours later, Alaric Jackson signs his extension, starting left tackle of the future, 3-year deal, right about $19 million per year is kind of what they got the deal. So I think that I saw that was a value of 9th total in the NFL in terms of left tackles. So depending how you think of Jackson, a pretty good deal. Maybe not a huge overpay. So I think that's a good thing. And then now Jonah Jackson put on the block, traded today to the Bears for a 6th round pick. Compensation's fine. We all knew they weren't going to get much for him. He reunites with Ben Johnson, who was the Lions offensive coordinator, who Jackson got his best years with. So hopefully it's a good fit there, as the Bears needed a huge boost on the offensive line. So this trade, in terms of just that, felt like a perfect match for both teams. The Rams were just, it was a bad all around, needed to move on. And the Bears get someone that had some success with their head coach, and their offensive line was abysmal. So it can't get any worse. The good news for the Rams, and I'm getting long-winded, so I'm going to give it to you, Skinny, right after this, is the Bears are going to retain all of Jonah Jackson's salary. He was due to make $17.5 million this season, plus a roster bonus. They're taking all of it. So the Rams end up saving $4.5 million in cap space, or 4.6, somewhere around there, in this deal. So, Skinny, all that long-windedness. Are you surprised, one, how quickly this happened? And two, are you surprised, again, the compensation is fine. I don't think a 7th, a 6th, a pick swap. I think it was more the contract. The fact that the Rams were able to get rid of the entire contract, are you surprised by that?
Yes and no. I mean, you look at the market, what happened with Trey Smith, Alaric Jackson coming off the board already. The Bears didn't have a lot of choice, and the Rams were motivated sellers. They wanted to move on as fast as possible to get the max savings for the cap, 14.6 mil. I think you maybe mentioned that. Sets them up well for free agency. The Bears don't have a lot of options, other than this kind of a move. So, the Rams were in a good place to move on, and the Bears found something that they needed, and they didn't have to compete with anybody, So if this is the best trade the Rams can get, I think it's a win-win across the board. So, it didn't work out, and he didn't have a place on the roster. It wasn't a good center. Wasn't going to be a left guard. So there you go.
Yeah, and this is we've said this about the Rams a lot. They make mistakes, right? Like there's a lot of fans that are just like, just trust the Rams. They're geniuses. They are. They're great, but they make a lot of mistakes. But where they are geniuses, and where I give them so much credit, is when they make those mistakes, they don't let them linger. They just like, okay, let's just eat it and move on. Like we've seen it time and time again. We saw it more recently with Bobby Wagner a few years ago. I mean, he was on a 5-year deal. 1 year into the deal, they cut ties with him. And that wasn't even necessarily didn't work out. He played well with them, but then at the time they were in love with Ernest Jones, and then we know what happened with Ernest Jones, and that moved on. This is another one. Like this was an absolutely failed signing across the board. Like when it happened, it was, again, not saying we knew everything was going to happen, but when the signing happened, it was like, ooh, this is a guy with injury history that you just signed Kevin Dotson to a big deal, and now you're going to do this. Like I get the reasoning of wanting to fortify your line for Matthew Stafford, but you're signing a guy that plays the same position as your stalwart rookie that just had a great year, and now you're going to move guys around, and they moved him again. Like it was just doomed from the start, all around, bad. So the fact that they just said it, instead of trying to run it back and force it to work again because of the money that they owed him, they said, you know what? We're ripping the Band-Aid off. We'll eat the dead cap as we always do, and let's see if we can find someone to get anything for him. If not, I mean, I think they were ready to just waive him if they didn't get anything and just move on anyway. So the fact they got a 6th, which now gives them, don't they have like six-round picks or something now? Something crazy?
Is that right? That's crazy.
Something crazy like that. I'll verify when you're talking. But the fact that you're able to get that and get rid of the entire contract so they're not on the hook for anything.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that I think is what makes this organization one of the better ones in all of the NFL, is recognizing when they make a mistake to correct it quickly instead of just letting it linger and hurt you down the line.
Yeah, 100%. The cap savings, again, I'm just going to go back to that. That alone is worth it. And the fact that they got even more, Bo Limmer was a 6th-round pick, Yep. Can you get another starter out of it? We'll see. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it was the right thing to do. Everything fell into place for it. So beautiful trade.
Absolutely. Love it. I just want to confirm here that they do have, let's see how many 6th-round picks. Yeah. I hate when they just tell you the numbers here. I don't know. I'll confirm later, but they did. Yeah. Another 6. They have a lot now. So overall, a solid trade. And is this one that, I mean, do you think they address the offensive line in free agency, or is this a kind of tell that, obviously they re-signed Jackson. So as it stands right now, got Alaric Jackson at left, Steve Avila back at left guard as he should be. I'm assuming Bo Limmer as your starting center, and then Kevin Dotson at right guard and Rob Havenstein, which we'll talk about in a minute, but he is set to return, and the Rams did say they want to keep him at right tackle. Do you think they go for a depth piece, or they're kind of good with this, and they'll use a draft pick on a lineman for sure? But do you think they address anything in free agency?
It's a possibility. I think that interior kind of took a step back. I don't want to point at all of it at Bo Limmer, but I think it's a possibility. Where my mind keeps going is there's 2 fantastic centers for the draft that I would be really excited that if they drafted in the 1st round, they would have to. That being North Dakota State center and the Georgia center, whose names I'll have right here, Gray Zabel and Jared Wilson. Jared Wilson had like an insane, posted something for a 310-pound guy. I think he was under 5 in the 40, just an insane combine numbers. So go check that out. I don't want to talk to anybody to taking a center, but these are the things I get excited about. And, Matthew Stafford was under a ton of pressure last year with the starting lineup in there. I think that's something they have to address. So I wouldn't be opposed to it. Fine, if maybe they're going to roll with Limmer. Maybe they obviously know far more about what he's capable of, but I think there's an opportunity there.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And the Rams now have 4 6th-round picks. I don't know where I got 6. That'd be a little ridiculous, but still 4 6th-round picks now. And we know how they've drafted in the 6th round as of late. So I think that'll be good. Which, if anyone wants to know where you can find this, we have a Rams draft pick tracker at LAFB Network. So all the future picks and where they came from, you can go there and find it all. All right, so moving on to players they want to keep, came out and they did say Rob Havenstein, they do want to retain. Obviously, he's under contract, but they don't want to move on. And Tyler Higbee. So Havenstein, I don't think we need to talk much about. Obviously, he's your stalwart right tackle, is your most tenured Ram. He's played very well when healthy. Great. That makes sense. You got to keep some continuity there. If you want to add anything, go for it. But I think we can be very quick. Rob Havenstein here to stay, as it should be. Higbee is an interesting one because I think we saw, Skinny, how valuable he is to the offense when healthy. Like, there was definitely an uptick when he was out there, and they actually utilized the tight end position, which they didn't do as much without him. Part of that because Colby Parkinson isn't meant for that role, and he wasn't signed for that role. But he kind of had to play that role with Higbee being hurt for most of the season. But when Higbee was back, he was great. The problem is the health, and got banged up again even after coming back a little bit. So I still think the Rams need to address tight end, whether it's through free agency or the draft. But do you think it was wise, or do you think it is wise to keep Higbee as kind of that veteran leader in that room and then still add to it?
I have my questions about Higbee as well. I mean, his production, his role in the offense has changed significantly over the last couple of years. Obviously, last year didn't play hardly at all, but you see, how they use him still is effective. Is he the most effective player at that? Is he as effective as he was early in his career? No, I don't think so. I think his contract has some wiggle in it as well. So I think they'll probably work on some renegotiating with him. But this is absolutely 100% an area that they need to. This is again, I think, between center and tight end, I think these are prime first round draft pick positions. Mm-hmm. So I think they go that direction as well. The tight end class seems to be pretty deep from what I've seen and read. So I think that's definitely on the table. I'm hoping for a contract renegotiation with Higbee. But I also think maybe it's pointing towards an increased level of true 12 personnel, mm-hmm. especially with Kupp probably most likely gone. McVay did say he's open to Kupp returning, but that's like, saying you're open to winning $1 million. It's like, yeah, of course. Yeah. You would love him to stay. Chances are still low on that. But I think, maybe this offense starts to look a little bit different, a little bit more 12 personnel, two tight end sets. I think that could be something, where Higbee can still be involved with a drafted tight end. So that's kind of where I'm predicting they go.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think so. And yeah, we'll see if a restructure comes. But I mean, this tight end class is interesting because a lot of people say it's very top heavy, which it is. Obviously, I think after Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland, there is a drop off, and those are certainly your top 2 guys that are going to be first round picks. So if one's there at 26, do the Rams go there? I think that would be a home run pick. We know Sean McVay has been bullish on the tight end position. His first pick was a tight end in Gerald Everett, ever as a head coach. Last year, he aggressively tried to trade up 210 to get Brock Bowers. Obviously, it worked. Brock Bowers is great, so it would have been a home run pick, but obviously it worked out that they stayed pat and got Jared Verse. But I think it's clear McVay wants kind of a do-it-all, game-changing tight end. And Higbee at times can be that, but it's just the health and even just the inconsistency there a little bit. So I agree that they're definitely, I think, will add someone in this draft class, and if it's one of those guys at 26, great. If they're gone and they can get Harold Finnan Jr. out of Bowling Green, I like, and we'll get into draft stuff later. But there's some other players that a lot of people think there's a huge drop off. I don't know if there is as much. There's a drop off from those two for sure, but I think you can still get some high end talent in that second and third round from guys that could actually do some damage. I mean, even if this is going to be a late round pick, but the UCLA kid, Maliki Matavao, I think has some high end talent. UCLA has a history of producing good tight ends. So, and he doesn't have the kind of the checkered, at least recently, the checkered injury history that I'm drawing a blank on his name, the last UCLA tight end that came out did. So, I think there's some optionality there that, when we get to the draft, we'll talk about all that. But I think tight end is definitely a position just because them saying Higbee is back, they're happy to move forward with him. I don't think that means they're not going to be adding a tight end, whether free agency or the draft or both. And I know that room will be a little full because Parkinson still has 2 years left on his deal. Davis Allen is, still on his rookie deal. They still have Hunter Long. I can't remember if his deal's expiring or not, but as of now, Hunter Long. So there's options there, but we'll see. Let's end with this, Skinny. And you mentioned Cooper Kupp. Just today, Davante Adams officially released by the Jets. So he is now a free agent. Don't have to trade for him. You're not taking his $39 million cap number. Obviously, there's been a lot of chatter now of Adams would be a lot of fun with the Rams. He wants to play on the West Coast. He's basically kind of said, Rams or Chargers, I'd love to come play for either of you. I think he's a fit for both these teams. Cooper Kupp, and I can't remember when a roster bonus or any of that would come into play. So this could be moot if that's the case. But there's a world, Skinny, I just want to get your thought on this. So the tampering starts March 10th. There's a world where the Rams can basically, Kupp's under contract. They're not up against a deadline for, tendering him or putting anything on him. He's under contract. So the ball's in their court to kind of what they do things. There's a world where they could basically call the agent of Davante Adams, see what kind of market Adams has. And let's say it's a lot less than what he was getting. Let's say his market is, I'm just throwing numbers out there, a 3-year, $26 million deal. Puts you at about 9 per, a little under 10. He might get more than that. I'm just making numbers up. The Rams, who, as we learned a few days ago, have not asked Kupp or had not even talked to Kupp about a renegotiation or a pay cut. There's been no contract talk. They basically said, we're going to set to trade you, and that's kind of been the conversation. So there is a world where they can go to Kupp and say, hey, you're most similar in the market based on age, based on production to Davante Adams right now. They're both they're not the same exact player. I get that, but they're very actually similar in size. They both play a lot more in the slot than other receivers on the market. We're going to trade you, or how do you feel about this deal? This is what Davante Adams is getting on the market. Would you renegotiate to that deal, or would you rather keep your deal and we'll send you for a 7th round pick to Cleveland or wherever? Do you think there's a world where that could actually happen? I mean, you know what I'm saying? I don't know if I'm explaining it right.
Yeah, no, I get it. It's such an interesting nugget that they didn't even approach him to renegotiate. What does that mean?
Yeah, it sounds like they're just ready to be done for whatever.
Yeah, reason. which is always it's perplexing in a way. It's we've never seen the two wide receiver situation work out with Stafford and the Rams. We've seen the ones. We've seen Cooper Kupp have a fantastic year. Puka Nacua have a fantastic year. So yeah, I'm just kind of curious where where the whole offense is gonna land. Like I was saying kind of earlier about having one foot in one era and the other foot in a new era. I think that's probably why they want to move on from an older receiver. So like Cooper Kupp or Davante Adams, as much as I think he would fit nicely. And, I think they're going to move to get younger, and those offensive weapons is where they need to move toward, to get younger. Stafford's getting older. Kupp's getting older. Those are the two big dominoes left to fall. So I don't think they would offer. They may offer it to him, but I don't even think it's on their radar. I don't think they want Kupp back. Otherwise, there would have been a negotiation. There would have been. They recognize that they're kind of on this cusp, and they, we've talked about the succession plan for Stafford. There's got to be a succession plan for Havenstein. There's got to be a succession plan for Higbee, and Kupp, and Nacua is the Kupp succession plan and worked out fantastically. So it's all very murky and muddy, and even more so around Kupp, because it just doesn't look like he's got a lot in the tank. And with the huge contract and probably going to get cut instead of traded at this point, it almost feels like a sort of like what you're talking about earlier, and that kind of like we've recognized that we've made a mistake and we need to move on.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. That's where I see that. That's the only thing I could think. I mean, I don't know. Where are you on the Kupp thing?
Yeah. I mean, it is so bizarre how they haven't even like had those talks. To me, there's two possibilities. There's probably more, but just in my head, my line of thinking, there's two reasons. And one is kind of what you alluded to, that they've gotten to a point where they just see a world moving forward without Kupp, meaning at this point, we all thought him and Nacua could work together, but after seeing it in action, they're two similar players that to get like they can make it work. That doesn't mean they can't just like do it, but for them to like get to another level, to not be one play away from an NFC Championship, but actually go to the NFC Championship, go to the Super Bowl to elevate the offense that was not good last year. Let's be real. The offense was not good last year. To get to that level, I'm just speaking from their mindset. They need a receiver that complements Nacua that's not the same, because Nacua is the future there.
Yeah.
And so that's one of them saying, you know what, Kupp, it's just too much repetitiveness. They're the same. They play from the slot. We're forcing a square peg into a round hole by having this. Like, let's just move on, and we need to go get a true like X receiver, big 6'4" jump ball guy. And that wouldn't be Devontae Adams either, for those out there wondering. So there's that side of it. The other side, and I just to relate, I like, every now and then we like to relate to real life scenarios. I had a buddy that was running a company, and he had this job open, and I did some stuff for him, some freelance stuff or whatever, and had this job opening, and I was like, oh, that could be perfect for me. Like it would get me away from what I'm doing now, and it's in an area I'd want to work. He never offered it to me. He ended up hiring someone that was way less qualified than me, in my opinion. And to me, it made no sense. I'm like, hey, we're buddies. Like, I'm like overqualified for this role. Like, it wasn't anything like it was like me getting an upgrade. Like, if anything, it was like a demotion in a way, just because I think I was overqualified, but he never offered to me. And I remember I asked him once, I was like, hey, just curious, like, it's not the end of the world, but like, did you not think I'd be good at this? And he was like, no, I thought I would have been insulting offering it to you because it was way under your value. Like, you're way more valuable than what that role was. The pay wasn't that great. Like, I could only offer a certain amount of pay for it. So I just thought you were overvalued. To me, I was like, well, I still wanted to do it. Like, I get to work with you. Like, it was a field, like whatever. Like, I knew it was going to be not a lot of pay. So the only thing the other scenario of this is the Rams saying, we don't want to insult you by saying we will only pay you $8 million a year, because we do think you're worth more. We just can't pay it right now. Like, we gave you this contract. Unfortunately, we're moving in a different direction on offense, and we can't pay you the $17 million or whatever you're worth. But we believe you are worth that in terms of the market value of the NFL. So we would rather give you somewhere else, not insult you by making you take a 50% pay cut when you can get paid that somewhere else. That's the other side that maybe, I mean, I still don't know why you wouldn't, you're already under contract, at least have the conversation, but I don't know. Maybe that's part of it. Like, they're afraid to insult him.
Well, I mean, just telling the guy you're going to trade him. I mean, I think
it's already kind of insulting, right?
Like, he wants to stay. He wanted to spend his whole career here. I think it's over. I mean, they got to make these hard moves, and we gave them a round of applause for doing it with Jonah Jackson, and this is a harder round of applause, but I think it's the right choice that they have to make. It's the hard choice. Nobody likes it. Mm-hmm. He's a fan favorite for a reason. Puka Nacua loves him for a reason. Sean McVay, said he's changed his life, just because of the kind of person he is. So, I mean, yeah, it's a begrudging pat on the back, but I've thought it since it was announced. I thought, earlier in the season it was time to move on. I think his trade value was higher around the trade deadline, so I think that was a mistake.
Yeah.
So it's when they say it's football is a business, it's like this is the most personal version of football as a business. I mean, it's people too. So
Yeah.
I mean that's why I don't like talking, in such generalities about Cooper Kupp. But I mean,
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, I agree. I do honestly believe that if and when he gets traded or released, I still could see him going somewhere else, playing 2 to 3 more years, and then ultimately being back on the Rams staff. As long as this marriage doesn't end like real ugly, which I don't think it will. I know there's probably some mixed emotions and some hurt feelings at one point. Or I know when it was very unlike Cooper Kupp, his post of saying like, it's not my choice, but the Rams have decided to trade me. Like it was just kind of like out of character for him to even like voice anything. So clearly struck a chord. But I do believe it'll be handled in a professional manner that I could see him totally back on this staff in some capacity in 2-3 years when he does retire from the game. So let's end with this. Debo was traded to the Commanders. What did he end up netting again? It's been such a whirlwind of a few days. Did he get a second? Did they get a second round for him?
No, fifth rounder.
Fifth round. Thank you. So they got a fifth rounder, and let me even look. Unless what is his contract right now? So he is, so he had a very team-friendly deal, unless the Commanders already reworked it. Basically, he's under contract for 25 with a $17 million cap hit, and then all the rest of his contract is voided. I don't know if that was part of the trade or that was his actual contract.
I mean, they're pretty smart up there about those things. So
yeah. So regardless, I'm saying this because I think people saw that and like, oh, well, Kupp's better than Debo. He's going to get more compensation for that. But I think because of Kupp's contract, if they are going to move him, in my opinion, it's going to be less than that. I know people don't want to hear that. What do you think?
Yeah, I've always kind of had my eye on a 6 for Cooper Kupp, and the fact that it's taking so long, and that there are so many wide receiver needy teams out there, that's why I'm leaning that they're going to have to cut him, because they owe him a bonus here in a couple of days next week if they're not able to cut or trade him. So I think that news will come sooner than later. And it might end up being a pick swap situation. I think he's got value. I just don't think that, actually I think it's similar to Debo. It's like you get hurt a lot, and what's your role going to be on an offense? I mean, he fits so perfectly in Los Angeles, as Debo fits so well in San Francisco, that it's almost like the glove fit just too perfectly, in those places. So yeah, I've been kind of eyeing a 6, and I think they're probably asking for more than that.
Yeah. Oh, I hope so. I hope they're asking for more. That'd be great. Considering they got a 6 for Jonah Jackson, who, not saying Cooper Kupp has been a better player, but Jackson is younger and, whatever. So not at different positions, so it's hard to even gauge that. But yeah, I think a 6 is probably anything higher than a 6 would be a really good value for the Rams, I think.
Yeah.
Based on the 2 years left, and he's only got $5 million guaranteed this year. But those cap hits, if they, obviously they're going to have to renegotiate, because the cap hits are like $27 million this year and $29 million next year. So, pretty massive cap hits that a team would have to incur, depending how this trade goes down. So, we've talked about this before, so we'll be very quick. But like, what teams do you see him? Is there a fit you like out there where you're like, ooh, it'd be fun to see him there? Like, obviously we don't want to see him leave, but is there a team you're like, yeah, it's that'd be a fun fit?
Houston has always been one I've been really intrigued by, just because they have number one receiver there, Nico Collins. We'll see what happens with Tank Dell, but just somebody to kind of give a bit of relief from that pretty bad offensive line for CJ Stroud. I think that would be pretty interesting. Goes completely against Miami Dolphins kind of speed first ethos, but again, creative mind like McDaniels would be interesting. Places like Minnesota always make sense. I'd love to see him go to the AFC, not the NFC. So, Steelers really jump out.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, I mean, selfishly, this won't happen. Selfishly, I'd love to see him go to the Broncos. I think he'd fit well in that Sean Payton system. They have like a true outside X receiver in Cortland Sutton. So he would be able to play really nice in the slot. But the Broncos they don't have like any big name stars, but they have a lot of youth. I mean, they took 2 draft picks last year in Troy Franklin and Devon Vele, who can both play in the slot. So I don't think it'll happen just because they're happy with their youth and depth. But I would love to see him there. It'd be fun. I think he'd fit really well there. Chicago, honestly, I could see a good fit, kind of being that Amon-Ra role in this Ben Johnson offense with, Caleb Williams. Keenan Allen's a free agent, so I don't think the Bears are bringing him back. And, DJ Moore and there are the rookie Romo Dunze, kind of both play on the outside. So it would be basically he would take over for what Keenan Allen was supposed to be last year and be that slot guy. So I could see him fitting with the Bears as well. But after just having a trade with the Bears, Jonah Jackson, do they hit the well again, or do the Bears just wait for free agency? So those are 2 that I would like to see if he wasn't staying here with the Rams. Chargers too. I mean, if you want to keep him in LA, he'd probably fit with the Chargers as well.
Yeah, it'd be a great mentor for that young room with Quentin Johnson and Ladd McConkey, both guys on the rookie deals. So I think that definitely comes to mind. I think the Chargers fan base wants like a real game changer. We'll see what they actually get with Harbaugh there. It's always funny to recognize the Harbaugh reality when nobody else does. Do we have to talk about Bobby Brown?
Yeah, we could mention Bobby Brown. Last thing on.
Oh, sorry.
It's funny is the years of, which is why it'll be interesting if Kupp goes there, for how great Harbaugh is, and obviously turn the Chargers around. And this is not a Chargers show, but we've kind of talked about, I think even a little bit on the show jokingly, but we've talked offline about how I just don't think Greg Roman is like the OC I don't think he's a modern day OC that you're going to actually win a championship with. But what's funny is, you have this quarterback in Justin Herbert. Everyone remembers like the years that Lamar Jackson got like the most scrutiny for not being able to be a true passing quarterback. Greg Roman was his OC. They were just like a pure running offense. They couldn't keep a receiver, or they wouldn't even get a receiver, right? Yeah. Like that was the big thing. Like, we don't give Lamar Jackson weapons. How is he going to be good? It's like, well, that's the mentality of the Greg Roman offense. That's now here in LA. So all these Charger fans are like, oh, they're going to T. Higgins, this, that. I'm like, they're never going to go after one of those guys. Like, they're content with rolling out McConkey, who looked great, and then some other no-name guys. And I think they'll get a good tight end. But that'll be the offense, and then they're just going to keep running it. So Justin Herbert's days of 5,000 yards passing might be gone until they change that offense.
Yeah, 100%.
But Bobby Brown, you want to mention him?
So, he's a free agent, and I don't remember who said what, but he, is a run defender in the offense or in the defense. He's the biggest guy on the defensive line. And he has always seen himself as a pass rusher, and he thinks he just hasn't been given the opportunities to show what he can do in the pass rush. Our Nico interviewed him at training camp, and he straight up said he didn't learn anything from Greg Gaines or A'Shawn Robinson. He learned more from guys like Aaron Donald as a pass rusher and Leonard Floyd, which plays a completely different position. And it's just amazing that there's such a big disconnect there. What he saw his role should be and what his role was the entire time that he was on the team.
Yeah. I mean, that was the thing, right? Like, people have viewed him as a pass or a run stopper his career, and his multiple, including in talking to Nico for LAFB during training camp, and then also on Twitter just a few days ago, basically just saying like I just need the opportunity. I wasn't given the opportunity. And to his credit, a little bit, like when you look at the numbers, because I wrote something on it. When you look at last year, 513 total snaps, 283 run defense snaps, 230 pass rush snaps. So on the surface, like, well, yeah, 230 opportunities to have more than half a sack. He finished with half a total sack. But for context, and I'm not saying it should have been reversed, so I'm just giving him a little bit of credit. For context, rookie Braden Fisk, 700 total snaps. So he had almost 200 more snaps and 464 pass rush snaps. So double the pass rush snaps. And then he led all rookies with 8.5 sacks total. So he took a little bit, he maximized his opportunity a little bit more. So, I mean, it's a hard, again, we're not in those rooms. We're not in the meeting rooms. But it's what they say in any career field, right? Is you're not guaranteed opportunity. Any opportunity you get, you have to seize. 230 pass rush snaps, like that's some opportunity to sneeze a little bit more than half a sack. Now, last thing I'll say is just because you're on a pass rush snap, your role in that may not be purely rushing the quarterback. Like there's different blitzes and stunts, and sometimes you're like the decoy guy that takes on, you kind of do a stunt that takes on two blockers that would free up a stunting Fisk around the edge or something like that. So there's definitely that going on. He's not just getting 230 opportunities to bull rush the quarterback. So it's an interesting conversation. It's, sometimes guys do get screwed, right? Like it absolutely happens. I've talked to former players that like, yeah, the team for whatever reason just, didn't like me. I remember talking to Sua Cravens, who used to, played at USC and got traded to the Broncos, thought he was going to have this role. And then Vic Fangio was the head coach at the time, just didn't see him in that role and saw him differently. And he ended up only being there like half a year and had some injuries and whatnot. Sometimes there's a disconnect, like you said, with a player's version of what they can do and a coach's vision of what they can do. And I think that being said, we probably won't see Bobby Brown back with the Horns. I don't know if you think that or not.
Yeah, no, I think it's a perfect opportunity to go out and get a guy that understands what this team needs, and it's a run stopper. I think he could have recognized that as an opportunity to really make a difference on the team. I mean, he had some great tackles for loss over the years. Yeah. He's made a difference in the run game. Going back to what you're saying about the stunts and everything and the opportunities that he didn't get. It's like they give those opportunities to the guys that they trust to execute the play to perfection, to execute it at a high level. And Bobby Brown wasn't getting those opportunities, not because somebody didn't like him or because, they had a bad reputation or something like that. It's because, well, you got other guys on the team that can rush the passer a bit better than you, man. Yeah. I asked Todd Gurley, what's the difference between a running back that gets a lot of balls thrown his way and a guy that's just more of a pure running back? And he said, it's just play calling. It's just like that can't be the only difference, like. So all that to say is, it was always fun covering him.
Yeah.
Freaking Bobby Brown.
He was in the doghouse a lot too, right?
Yeah. I mean, that was my favorite McVay quote was freaking Bobby Brown after somebody saw him on the practice field without his pads. He took his pads off early and
chillaxing.
I guess that's a fine.
I mean, that's you ask about not getting opportunity. That's not going to help your cause.
Not at all.
Not going to help your cause. Coming from someone that was always the shortest guy on every team I played for. Like I didn't get many opportunities, so I had to make sure the few that I got, I maximized every ounce of that opportunity. And that's what, everyone has to do. And again, sometimes you do get kind of screwed. Sometimes coaches just like certain players better, whether it's personality, whether it is a little bit of a skill set, whether it's unfair, whatever. That's unfortunately life, not just football. So, but I'd like to see him back because I do think he is a really good run stopper. I think he was really good in that role if he liked it and wanted to seize it. Now it sounds like he's going to want to go seek an opportunity where he can be a more versatile player in terms of having more of a role within the pass rush as well. in which case I wish him all the best and hope his case. Because when he was drafted out of A&M, I mean, I was hyped on the pick, and I'm not saying he was a bust. He had some good snaps here. But I was like, this is a guy that has a lot of opportunity. And, I talked to Coach Henderson about the pick, and he loved it and saw like the mold of Aaron Donald in a way of having that versatility. And whether it was his own fault, whether it was the team's, whatever, it didn't necessarily mature to that. So we'll see. But if he goes elsewhere, I hope enough for the best. Hopefully he just doesn't go to like the Niners or the Seahawks or the Cardinals, as long as it's not that. So anything else to add? We'll wrap up.
Let's get out of here.
All righty. Well, thank you all, as always, for listening to the Rams Skinny. If you have not already, please hit that like and subscribe button on our YouTube. It's Rams LAFB is how you can find it if you're not there. Rams LAFB. Helps us out a ton when you subscribe. If you're on podcast, Apple, Spotify, just search Rams Skinny, or all of our Rams coverage, and all of our Los Angeles sports coverage is at LAFBnetwork.com. Free agency is just around the corner. It's going to be a busy frenzy here at LAFB, and we've got you covered. For Skinny T, I am Ryan Dowd. Everyone be well, be safe. We'll talk to you all in just a couple days.